Why would we want to go through this? Let me mention a couple of thoughts very quickly. When we study the Bible in its original language, in our case, the Hebrew, we have the ability to gain a greater understanding, to see the nuances, the poetic beauty that's often lost or obscured in translations. Those of you who do have a knowledge of multiple languages know that there is no such thing as going from one word to another, generally speaking, across languages. That sometimes there are idioms or phrases that you have to try to find a way to explain in your native language from a foreign language. And sometimes you lose some of the nuances, or some of the underlying meanings become obscured. Key theological terms and word plays and literary devices really become a little more clearer, can become clearer. I won't say learning a language is going to solve all your theological questions. By no means will it do that, but it can give you a little more insight and enrich both your personal study and your ability to help share. Let me give you an example. In Hebrew, the word shalom, you probably know the word shalom, right? Shalom means peace typically, but it's really so much more, greater meaning than that. It includes wholeness, completeness, well-being. When someone says shalom, they're talking about they're wishing them peace and well-being in their wholeness of themselves. For example, in Isaiah 26 and verse 3, keep him in perfect peace. It says keep him in shalom, shalom. Literally peace, peace, emphasizing on completeness of that wholeness, that peace. We also find that when we think about learning an ancient culture or an ancient language, it helps us to connect us to that culture. It's more than really a language. It reflects the worldview, the culture, even the historical context of the ancient Israel. Learning that language helps to open up that window into how ancient people express their ideas about God, their view about God, their view about community, their view about justice, their view about life itself. And it helps us to sort of understand and connect with them. And it helps us to put ourselves in their shoes. We become more connected to their worldview, their poetry, their narrative, their theology, all embedded in their language. And Hebrew is really a very concrete and action-oriented language. God's attributes, really, in Hebrew, are often described in actionable verbs, not abstract concepts, but verbs that express action and reflecting who he is. And so reflecting who he is and how he acts in history. Another example is the word nephesh, usually translate soul, Genesis 2, verse 7, but it really refers to the whole being. In Genesis 2:7, Adam becomes the nefesh hayah, that is a living being, not just a soul. This reflects the Hebrew worldview, where body and spirit and soul are united. They're not separate entities. When we think about why we want to go through this effort, and it is an effort. This is not like studying the Gospel of John and diving deeper into the theology of John, although we're going to pull out connections in the Hebrew to the New Testament. Even here today, we'll do some of that. But we can, as we grasp the biblical Hebrew, it gives us tools to pursue theology and archaeology and ministry, to understand and interact with critical resources and commentaries, and gives us the foundation for more advanced studies as we grow in the Word. The word Elohim, it's a grammatically plural word. I know most of you as ministers of the Word already know that. It's a grammatically plural word, but predominantly used for the singular God. The complexities that associated with this, a lot of theological and linguistic questions, can only be appreciated when you really spend time in the Hebrew itself. In Genesis 1:1, Bereshit bara Elohim, in the beginning, God created. The word the verb for bara, very fascinating. Number one is singular, where Elohim is plural. That's not normal, as you know. In most languages, the verb and the noun or the subject are going to agree in number, singular, plural. So there, bara, Bereshit bara Elohim is speaking about a singular event created. That, by the way, bara is only something that God does. Humanity does not bara. Humanity does not create bara. They asa, which is a creation that's done through humanity. But bara is a singular and tied to Elohim, who's plural. And so it invites us deeper theological study about who is God, who is Elohim. And so as we think about it, I want to make a connection here between the New Testament and the Old Testament and why this is value added. This is a theological connection now. And when you think about in Hebrew, there's a word called derek. Derek is like the way of the path, the road, the way, the journey. And in Genesis 3:24, you remember there, the very last verse of chapter 1, God drove man out because of their sin. And at the east of the Garden of Eden, he placed the cherubim and the flaming sword to do what? To protect, to guard the way, the derek, to the tree of life, right? So after the fall of humanity, humanity is cut off from paradise, from the way of life. And that way back is guarded, symbolizing that loss of life and that loss of fellowship with God. So derek refers that unaccessibility in this case, in its use, unaccessibility without divine intervention. But you all know John 14, verse 6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. The way, hodos in Greek, is Jesus declares himself to be the way, not a guide, but the actual pathway back to the Father. So theologically, consider this. Jesus reopens what was closed, the way, the hodos in Greek, that was once guarded and now embodied in the person of Jesus Christ. And so the way, the derek, that was cut off because of sin is now available through Christ. So there's a theological connection. I'm not saying hodos and derek are equivalent and that's not the point here. The point is theologically we can understand that God in his wisdom enables us to reconnect in what we lost because of sin. And we see that even in how he presents it. He guards the way, that is the pathway back to him until our Savior comes. And he is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to him except to the Father. So I think the effort we're going to put into to learn and to study and here is really, really worth the time. And it is an effort. I do want to say that, if you take the Gospel of John or you take the synoptic Gospels or you're learning book of Genesis, you're going to dive deeper into the Word. But learning the languages is going to give you tools that's going to help you to reflect upon the worldview of the people at that time, the authorship of the authors and the audience, and apply it in your lives and help better you to present it to other people. Not that you want to be some scholar, because this will not make you a scholar. It doesn't matter. I'm not one. It's not going to make you a scholar, but it's going to give you tools to help draw closer to God and to help others to do the same, to understand the nuances that may be hidden in that translation that doesn't really come across as well, especially when you come to poetry and some of the narrative texts. It's really worth the time and effort. So I want to thank you for making this effort. Really, it's very much appreciative. There's much we can learn from each other and much we can learn together. And so we're going to kind of walk through that process.